Work like you don't need the money. Love like you've never been hurt. Dance like nobody's watching. That is a quote by Satchel Paige. Welcome to Trina Talk. This is the podcast where guests share their stories of pursuing their passions, living a fulfilled life, and empowering others. Each week, I talk with inspiring leaders, business owners, and people with amazing stories from around the world in unscripted conversations as they share their successes and failures. This podcast is all about empowering you to keep striving in your personal and professional life. I am your host, Trina L. Martin. Welcome to episode 142. The topic of this week's episode is From Law to Love Stories. My guest this week is Reyna Marder Gentin. Reyna attended college and law school at Yale. For many years, she practiced as an appellate attorney with a public defender's office before turning to writing full-time. Her work has been published widely online and in print. Her debut novel, Unreasonable Doubts, was named a finalist for the Women's Fiction Writer Association Star Award in 2019. Her first novel for children is titled My Name is Layla, and her latest novel, Both Are True, will be published in October 2021. Hi, Reyna. Welcome to Trina Talk.
Thanks so much for having me.
I am excited to be speaking with you. You have an interesting background. And before we go into it, I'll just let you tell the listeners, tell us who you are and what made you the Reyna that you are today.
Sure. Wow. So I'm a married mom of two. I live outside of New York City, and for many, many years, I practiced law. For the last 20 years or so, I was doing criminal appeals for a public defender's office. And I left that job in 2014 without much of an idea what I was going to do next. And I started taking some writing classes. And this coming Monday, my third novel is going to be published. So I've been very, very focused on writing pretty much full time since I left practicing.
Wow. So that's interesting. So you go from being an attorney to an author. Now, was writing always a passion of yours? And I know being an attorney, you do write, but was that ever an aspiration of yours to be an author, or how did you come to do this?
Yeah, I would say not really. I mean, I like to tell the story of there was a woman in my first year law school class who really wanted to be a writer. I suppose she must have wanted to be an attorney or thought that she did. But by the time we were done with our first year, she had dropped out. And by the time we graduated from law school, she had a published novel. So I kind of look at her and I say, wow, she really wanted to be a writer, not so much an attorney. And I really wanted to be an attorney. I didn't really have I always liked to write. I think I always was a pretty good writer, but I certainly didn't have any aspirations to write a novel other than the kind that you have, where you dream at night and you wake up and you're writing a book, but, not really anything practical. So, as I say, when I left my job, I really didn't know what I was going to be doing. And a friend of mine told me she was taking a writing class at a local college that had sort of a writing program for adults and not for credit kind of program that anyone could go to. And I went with her and I really got hooked. And now I really feel like I found a second lease on, what I wanted to do with my life.
Wow. Now, what made you leave law? Was it, a turn of events, or was it something you had been looking to do? What was the impetus that made you say, okay, I'm done with law and I'm going to do something else?
So the job that I had was a very challenging job. I was representing people that had been convicted of felonies in the state of New York who were appealing their convictions to the next highest court. And it was a very rewarding job. You really felt like you were in there with these people, trying to get them a second chance at either, another trial or at getting out. But I always had the feeling that I didn't really know the whole story. I had that feeling when I was writing that I knew a lot about what happened at the time of the crime, and sometimes a little bit what happened before and a little bit what happened after, but I never knew the whole story. And that's okay. You don't usually really need to know to do that kind of work. But if you're somebody who's curious about people and who's interested in understanding stories, it's hard after a while. And I just kind of got burnt out after, when I was there almost 20 years. So I felt like I gave it a good a good shake. But I really kind of wanted to expand the way I thought about some of these issues. And my first book was based on a case that I had. And writing fiction allowed me to kind of fill in all the blanks that there was no way for me to know in real life, right? Like I couldn't know what had gone on in this kid. I say kid because a lot of them were young. I didn't know what happened in his background. I didn't know much about his family. I certainly couldn't have told you anything about his first love or whether there was a teacher that was important to him or any of those kinds of things. But when you write fiction, you can fill in all those blanks, and it was kind of very satisfying for me. So that's in the end kind of where I figured I might do a little more good in some ways, actually making things up.
Wow. So let's talk about your book. And you said, they're fiction and you like to fill in the gaps. What kind of fiction is it? Is it like a suspense? Is it romance? What is it?
So the first book is called Unreasonable Doubts, and it's a kind of a romantic legal thriller. It's about a young public defender who worked in an office in the book, very much like the office that I worked in. It was definitely inspired by true events. And the part that was purely fictional was that she gets assigned to a client who she sort of begins to fall for a little bit. So she has a less than arm's length transaction, let's just say, with this client. And that certainly never happened to me. But the case that it was based on was something, as I say, that I had worked on. It was a sexual assault case. And, and it was just really, I guess it's kind of suspenseful. You're hopefully guessing all the way through whether he's actually guilty of the crime or not. So that's a legal book. The one that's coming out shortly is also based on the law. It's based on the main character is a family court judge. And I worked also for a number of years in family court. And that's just like the most intense emotional place there is, I think. And everything passes through there: abuse, neglect, delinquency, adoptions, all the, guts of family life. And so that's kind of the scene for that book. And the one in the middle I wrote was actually a middle grade novel. And it's about a young girl who has undiagnosed dyslexia and kind of the struggles that she faces and how she eventually gets some people on board to understand that she has a problem and gets the help that she needs.
So that's interesting. So, and I'm going to circle back, but from your law, romance, thriller, you did this one that's kind of geared towards the youth. What made you do that?
I was actually waiting for the first book to be published, and I wasn't sure I wasn't sure what I was doing with my time and whether I had another book in me. And I decided to take this class about writing for youth. And I got in there, and I'm kind of very susceptible to both suggestions and deadlines. So the way it worked was it was a workshop, and you had to have like 10 pages ready each week to have the other readers critique. And I just, I'm kind of that kind of student. I don't like to go in and not have my assignment done. So every week I pretty much wrote a chapter of this book. And over the course of the year, I ended up with a pretty good draft of this book. And it was great. I mean, it really forced me to kind of delve back into my 14-year-old self and try to remember what those emotions were. And, a lot of people have asked me whether I have dyslexia or whether my kids have dyslexia, and they don't. I think you can research enough to kind of write in a credible way without actually having to experience it. But the things that I did experience were certainly being a 14-year-old and understanding those emotions and how you feel about your friends and how you feel about your family and the frustrations. So yeah, it was great. I mean, I'm not sure I know too many people that would go back to middle school voluntarily, but yeah, but for a little while when you're writing a book, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't go back.
No.
I wouldn't go back. So with your other books, your romance, law, thrillers, when you were writing these, and like you said, I think you said your first one was kind of based off of a case. Are you writing and you're taking what you know, but then you're also adding the fiction part of it where you're thinking, would have been interesting if this case had turned out this way?
Sure. I mean, I definitely, first of all, I changed all the facts just because it's not right to write about a person and not change the critical facts. But yeah, I mean, in real life, the case, in fact, although I did win him a new trial, it was much more cut and dried on the facts of his guilt. I mean, there was not really an argument to make that he wasn't guilty. There was a very critical legal issue that went in his favor, which also comes out in the book. But in the book, I tried to make it much less clear whether he was guilty or not guilty. And, and part of the reason for that was that I did want her, the lawyer, to take a romantic interest in him. And that wasn't something she could do unless she actually believed he was innocent, right? Because, he was otherwise kind of a really bad guy, and she was way too sensible to kind of fall in with that. So definitely, I changed a lot of the scenario to make it, and because it was a sexual assault case, to make it less clear whether the woman in the case had consented to the relationship or not. In real life, there was no issue of consent. She had not consented.
That sounds interesting. So are these two books, are they part of a series, or are they just separate?
No, they're pretty much standalone.
Okay.
Yeah, all different characters. They're both set in New York City, so they kind of have that character in common, and the city really does play a big role in both books. Which isn't to say that you can't enjoy it if you're not from New York City, but if you do love New York City like I do, then there is kind of an added element there.
Wow. Will you ever do like a series?
I don't know. It's been fun meeting with the kids about my middle grade book, and a lot of them have asked me if there might be a sequel to that. They'd like to know, now that she's getting help and she's doing better, what happens to her. And that's possible. I might continue that on. But we'll see. I don't know.
Oh, and that's interesting because it seems like your book for the youth is an empowering book to help the youth be empowered by what they're going through.
I hope so.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that's really great. I have two teenagers myself, a 16 and a 14-year-old. And I'm thinking things like cyberbullying and things like that that are really prevalent today. That would be really good for them to have something that they could, touch and read, and it's real.
Right. I mean, there's a bullying element in this book also, because she does have this learning difference, and the kids are not too nice to her about it in her class. But the good part about this, I think, about the middle grade book is that I hope it's not just for kids that struggle with these particular issues, because I think what is nice about it is that it kind of points out that everybody has issues, and some of them you can't see.
Right.
Like, a lot of the kids, I don't know what it's like where you are, but a lot of the kids here, the curriculum includes a book called Wonder. I don't know if your kids have read that. They might enjoy it. And it's a book about a child that has a particular craniofacial issue where his appearance is drastically altered from the normal appearance of a child.
That was a movie, wasn't it?
It was a movie also.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the movie, but I've read the book. And it's a great book. And it also deals a lot with bullying and, learning how to be kind to people. But the thing that, I was trying to get across was something a little bit different, which is, in that book, the particular issue was incredibly rare, right? It was like a 1 in a million genetic chance that this kid has this issue. And it was also, incredibly apparent, right? Like as soon as you see this kid, you know he's got an issue. So you're immediately faced with the choice of, how do I react to this? How do I look away? Do I be helpful? Do I try to, see what's going on here? And with something like dyslexia, it's really like an invisible challenge that the kids face. And it's, first of all, it's incredibly prevalent. It's something like close to 25% of the population, which I had no idea until I started looking into it. And yet it can be very serious. I mean, it's something that really can, set a child back and put real, blocks in their development. And and it's not something you can see. It's not something, necessarily that gets diagnosed right away. And it's not something that other people around you can be aware of and be helpful. And I guess my point was sort of like, what, there's all sorts of things like that. Like, it's not just learning differences. Like you can look at a kid and not know that they're having financial issues at home, or you can look at a kid and not know that they have somebody with a chronic illness at home, or a mental illness at home, or, there's just so many things. And we just need to be aware of our surroundings and the people around us, and trying to be, decent people to others without necessarily knowing what challenges they face, because we all face challenges, right. Everybody. And, in the book, Layla, is very conscious of the fact that the boy across the street seems to come from like a perfect family. She sees them have dinner every night at the same time. And she says she can smell their clean laundry, across the street. And she thinks they're perfect, but they're not perfect. She finds out later on, they've also got things going on. And because everybody has things going on. And, I just think it's a message that I hope is heard, not just by the kids with this particular learning difference, but by kids more generally.
Yeah. And actually adults can learn from that as well.
And adults.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So what I like to always ask people is, on your journey, what kind of things that you encounter? So as you left law, going into being an author, what were some things that you encountered that you figured, I have to get over this. This is maybe an obstacle, or I didn't think this was going to be this difficult?
So I think the biggest thing was when I was practicing law, I had colleagues. I had a lot of people around me to support me and to interact and to bounce ideas off of and to socialize with. And when you're writing, that's a group and a community that you need to make for yourself. And it's not an everyday thing. You're not going to an office with other people. I know now it's a little different because a lot of people are remote, whatever. But, back then it was normal to go in and you saw your friends and you saw your colleagues and you went out to lunch. And when you're writing, you're largely sitting by yourself somewhere. Even if you're in a cafe, you're still basically sitting by yourself. And so forming a community, which is critical in writing, just as it is in any other pursuit, is a very active thing that you need to do. You need to sign up for classes. You need to meet people. You need to go to other writers' book launches. Even if some of it is just virtual, even if some of it is just joining different Facebook groups and interacting with people so that, you get to know them a little bit. And, you can call on them if you need something, and they can call on you if they need something. It's really important. And it is a big obstacle. And it took me, it's been 7 years since I started doing this. And it's taken me really till this point to feel like, I know enough people that I'm not in this all by myself.
That's a good point. I never thought about it that way. And with the pandemic, how did that hinder your writing at all? Did it make it better? What did you encounter with just this whole past year?
Yeah, I found it difficult, to be honest, in two regards. First of all, I had the middle grade book, Layla, came out in January, kind of right smack in the middle of the pandemic. And to make that book, be out there, I really need to be in schools. And schools just don't, either here in New York, they're either largely not functioning or have just gotten up and running now, or even if they are, they don't have time. They just don't have time to be dealing with, this author wants to come in and do a presentation for your sixth grade. They're really like still, these kids can only walk up this staircase, right, and these kids can only walk down their staircases. It's really crazy. So that would be one thing. And then the other side of it is my husband has been working full time from home here since last March. So there's another person here all the time. and I had my kids home here doing school for many months. And my kids are grown, but they were in college and doing their work. And, having a full house is not really conducive to doing a lot of writing.
Wow.
So it's been kind of a lost year that way, but that's okay.
Yeah. So normally in the perfect world, your kids will be away at school, your husband will be at the office. Would you be at home, or do you have like a place that you go to write that is just like your place?
No, I'm at home. I have a desktop that's like 12 years old and threatening to quit on me, pretty much every day, and demolish all my work. And yeah, my desk is in my kitchen, which is not good for the waistline. I can tell you that for sure. But it's homey. I like it here, and I'm comfortable here. And yeah, I actually did get myself a laptop a couple years ago on the theory that I might go and sit in a Starbucks or something, but it's never actually happened. So
what would be your advice to anyone who is leaving whatever profession that they're currently in and saying, you know what, I want to be a writer. I want to be the next Reyna, the James, Peterson and whatever. What advice would you give them?
Well, I guess my first advice would be don't leave your day job. No. I mean, it has to be something that you're doing for the love of doing it. There is, unless you are fabulously successful, there is no money in this. You hope that maybe by the third, fourth, fifth book, you actually really hit something and something can grow out of it. And that would be fantastic. But certainly as a debut author, there are success stories, of course, but it's really, really hard. And I would say that, most first books, if you sell more than a few thousand copies, it's quite amazing. And of course you will read about that occasional incredible success story, and that's fantastic. And I hope it's all of you, and I hope it's me too. But it's really hard. So I would say, for me, I was lucky that, we were in a position here at home that I could devote myself to this without having to race out and get another job when I left my job. But that's a very lucky thing, and it doesn't often apply. So, I would definitely, if you can do it and you want to do it, it's wonderful. But it's definitely hard, and it's worth remembering that, I don't know how some of those James Patterson types got their start, but that's something to aspire to, but it's not something to think that is, necessarily going to happen.
I'm glad you said that, because I think oftentimes people look at authors and they're like, oh, they're a New York Times bestseller, they're this or that. Oh, they're rich. And so, yeah, I just need to go write a few books. And
right.
Yeah, I've written a book and I know exactly what you say. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. And, whatever you get in for each, book that's sold, you're going, really? That's it?
Yeah.
That's it. So it's not the profession that you're going to go into be rich unless you are one of these well-known people who has a big name, and
right.
publishers are dropping at your feet to say, okay, we want to publish your book. And I think that's a very big misconception. People think that, yeah, writing a book is easy and people are going to buy it and read it and this is going to be, my thing to sail off into the sunset.
Right.
it just doesn't happen like that. So everybody out there listening, yeah, don't quit your day job. You can still write, but yeah, make sure it's something that you really love to do. Oh my goodness, it's funny. So Reyna, we're going to go into our questions. Are you ready?
I guess so. I'm a little nervous, but
have no fear. I'm gentle.
Yeah.
Who or what motivates you?
I think people that face their demons motivate me. People that I can see that they are trying so hard to overcome whatever it is that challenges them. That's what motivates me.
What demotivates you?
People that are harsh, people that don't take a chance to be kind.
When was a time that something was said or done to hurt you, but it worked for your good?
Writing has a lot of rejections. I got rejected by a lot of agents. And I think it worked for my good because I had to find a different way to get my books out there and to just say, you know what, this is not going to stop me.
What is your fear?
I fear not knowing what to do with my time. I like to be busy, and if I have too much downtime, it makes me a little nervous.
Is there a time when you wish you had done something that you didn't?
Wow. Yeah. Can I go back to college? I wish I had tried out for certain singing groups that they had at my college that I didn't. I sang with a big chorus, but there were these smaller a cappella groups that were just so cool, and I didn't try out, and I regret that ever since.
Oh, wow. You're talented. Wow.
Yeah.
Is there a time that you wish you had not done something?
Wow. I don't know. I guess I don't know. I probably wish I had not. In some ways, I wish I had not quit my job without knowing what I was going to do next, because there was a period of time that was like pretty anxiety producing when I didn't know what I was doing with my day to day.
Wow. Okay. What is your definition of success?
I guess my definition of success is knowing that you've really tried your hardest. Not necessarily selling 1 million books, but knowing that you put out something that hopefully touches somebody. And if it does, that's a success to me.
How do you recharge?
I'm a big believer in two things: the nap. I definitely nap, and like scalding hot showers.
I like those.
So that usually gets me going again.
What are you awesome at?
Oh, geez. Awesome. I'm a very good worrier. I think I tend to worry a lot about my family and about friends and about, the world. So I think I'm pretty awesome worrier.
What legacy do you want to leave?
I hope I leave a legacy of being a caring friend. I hope that I showed my children what it was to be a caring daughter to my parents before they passed. I hope that they see what it means to take care of other people and to understand that that's part of your responsibility as a person.
Give the listeners one motivational takeaway.
Sometimes I think you just need to go out and do something, even if you don't really know what you're doing. And, I hope that motivates you to take a chance on something. I had no idea how to write a novel, honestly, none. And, now I've written 3 that are out there in the world. And, you just need to have a little confidence and take the plunge.
So how can the listeners get in touch with you, pick up your books? I don't know. Do you have any other programs or anything like that you want to let us in on?
So they can definitely go to my website, and I would love that. I don't know if hopefully it'll appear maybe with a listening note or something here, but it's just ReynaMarderGentin.com. On the website, I have information on all 3 books. And on all sorts of other writing that I've done. There's short stories up there, personal essays, all sorts of other things. Yeah, that's really it. And the book, the books are all on Amazon. Certainly, if you go into your own independent bookstore, which is my preference for all of you, because they need to be kept in business. If you go in and you can order it, you can order any of my books at any indie bookstore. They're not going to be out there on the shelf necessarily, but if you ask for them, they can certainly get them for you.
Yes. And I am an advocate of the independent bookstore as well. So yes, if you have a bookstore in your area that doesn't have the book, but if you ask them to order it, they will order it for you. So definitely that is an option. So definitely do that. Reyna, I thank you for being on Trina Talk. This has been a very interesting conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to actually picking up your book. Are they on Audible too, or just the books?
Unreasonable Doubts is on Audible.
Okay.
The other ones are not yet.
Okay. I'll have to go pick those up because, yeah, I'm a reader, but, I have to get Audible sometimes because I'm too busy too.
Yeah, I hear you.
But thank you for being on Trina Talk, and I wish you much success, and I'm looking forward to the books that you have coming out. If you like Trina Talk podcast, please don't forget to go out to iTunes and rate it 5 stars and leave a review. Also, who else in your life do you know that needs some motivation and inspiration in their life? Don't forget to share Trina Talk with them. I hope you have a great week. And remember, if you change your mindset, you can change your life. Keep striving because success is a journey, not a destination.